Hey everybody, Knickknack here, back again for another video. As you see on the title, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 games of 2023. Now I gotta say that last year was really good for games, no cap. And unfortunately, because there were so many good titles and so little time for me, I didn't get to experience all the major ones. So expect games like Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, Mario Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom not to be on here. You guys understand? Also, like all these lists, this is just my opinion. So with that out of the way, let's begin. And before I start, I'd like to throw some quick honorable mentions. I picked up Bum Simulator off a whim since it looked like it had Postal vibes. It was an alright $10 open world game with a nice length and some fun gameplay mechanics. Samba de Amigo Party Central was a fun RAM game with some nice gameplay modes, a good song selection, and a good challenge. For $40, it's a nice game, but it isn't too phenomenal. If you want a game that's easy to play and quick to beat, Ravenlock is one worth checking out. It's not bad, but I can see why it's on Game Pass. Despite only playing a few hours into WrestleQuest, it's a fun turn-based RPG with great art direction and tons of references for wrestling fans. Who doesn't love a game with Steiner Mac in it? F-Zero 99 isn't the F-Zero game I wanted, but it's a start. Considering it's free to play with a fun gameplay loop, I enjoyed my time with it. Though there were tons of good things from Mortal Kombat 1, such as 3D characters returning, a nice story mode, and new gameplay changes, the game could have honestly been a bit better. Let's just hope NetherRealm improves much more with the next Mortal Kombat game. Finally is the biggest omission from my list, and that's Baldur's Gate 3. I can see why it's gained a high praise. It unfortunately doesn't make my list because I only put 2 hours into it, but it's still a good game nonetheless. So with those out of the way, let's begin the countdown. Starting up the countdown at number 10 is Thirsty Suitors. I was interested in this game after seeing its trailer at the Game Awards. After finding out it was on Game Pass and learning it takes only a few hours to beat, I tried it and what an interesting game. What makes this game stand out are the characters and gameplay, as you play a South Asian woman trying to repair her relationships between her exes and her family. Kinda like Scott Pilgrim if Ramona was to redeem herself. Just the dialogue and how it goes into dealing with relationships was very well done. And despite having LGBTQ subject matter, it doesn't oversaturate the plot at hand. As for gameplay, it's interesting as it combines turn-based combat, rhythm games, and skateboarding sections. And honestly, it's not too bad. I enjoyed seeing the various attacks and rhythm sections that were very fun to get into. Despite the positives, there were tons of flaws as the story's pacing was bad, the antagonists weren't fleshed out as well, and the scene was very small. Also, moving around was annoying, which is why the game starts the list. Even so, I've enjoyed this game, and if you need something quick, relaxing, and cheap, this is a title worth checking out. At number 9 is a Space 4D Unbound, a game I was interested in after seeing people talk about. I bought on the Switch and talk about a really good sleeper hit. Now, to keep it real, this game is a basic adventure game similar to Telltale games, as they're going around an area and getting things to solve small puzzles. but what makes it stand out is everything else. Set in Indonesia, the game has a nice 16-bit look to it that's used so well in inviting you to locales of the country. It also helps with the music being good and setting the mood. The biggest standout though is the story, as it's really intriguing. The game follows a guy who befriends a girl that has magical powers, and her usage of them suddenly makes the world chaotic, and it's up to the guy to solve what's going on. The story gets good with all the reveals that go on, and most of the main characters are nicely written to a point where you feel tons of emotions near the end. Now as stated, the simple gameplay is its only flaw, which puts it low, but it's good enough to keep you in getting interested. I can see why this game was nominated for Games for Impact at the Game Awards, and honestly, I hope this and future physical copies lead more people into playing it. Number 8, I put Slayer Z's Terminal Aftermath Vengeance of the Slayer on here. Another Game Pass title I tried out because of its genre and length. This one was a very amusing surprise. A spin-off to a well-known indie game called Hypnospace Outlaw, Slayer X is a FPS inspired by FPSs of the 90s, particularly Duke Nukem 3D. With that being said, the gameplay isn't anything revolutionary, but it's very fun and fast-paced, and that's fine because it's what expected for a game like this. What makes this one feel different though is in its style, as it purposefully tries to be edgy from the presentation and characters. From the intro, you're introduced to an edgelord protagonist named Zane, who says he's made the game you're playing through and go through his adventures in defeating an evil syndicate in Idaho. There's tons of new metal playing in the background, and Zane makes these cheesy one-liners to where you have to laugh at how corny they are. The story also keeps you interested with cheesiness and moments that are over-dramatic. Overall, it's just a nicely made game, and if you like Duke Nukem and Doom, I highly recommend this one. Coming in at number 7 is Persona 5 Tactica. I love my Persona games, so of course you know this was going to be on the list. It isn't my favorite spin-off, but it's a very good one. Probably my first tactical strategy game, this was a nice introduction as I loved a whole lot about it. I enjoyed trying to find strategies and defeating enemies, decide which personas to use, while positioning my party to protect them. Speaking of personas, the typical features of the series were nicely used with how summoning and gaining them were easier than before. As for other parts, I liked the cartoony art style, the music was great as always, and I enjoyed some story aspects. Some people I know couldn't get into Kasukabe, but I liked him and his development, especially near the end. The game isn't perfect though, as it can be very easy, the pacing was a bit iffy at times, and the main antagonist was meh. Even with all of the flaws, I enjoyed my time with P5T, and I personally recommend it to fans of the series. For my number 6, I'm playing Hi-Fi Rush on here. Ever since its reveal on that one Microsoft show, I was looking forward to it, and once it hit Game Pass, I tried it and it delivered. This was an action game that was both fun to play and look at. The gameplay was interesting as it plays like DMC and had this gimmick of timing attacks to music, and it was enjoyable. The other thing as well that made Hi-Fi Rush so good was its presentation, as it had a cel-shaded look similar to modern action cartoons with an eclectic soundtrack ranging from arena rock industrial rock, and techno. I definitely gotta say it was so amazing to listen to how each track fit the stages. Now to be honest, the game could have been a bit better as the rhythm timing in the combat fell a bit off and the story was just a basic evil corporation wanting to take over the world and it's up to you to stop it, which is why it's not too high. Even with all of these though, it excelled in many parts and it's an enjoyable game as a whole. Check it out if it does hit other platforms. Number 5 is Fuga, Melodies of Steel 2. After trying out and loving the first Fuga, I decided to play a second a few months later, and I have to say I'm surprised at how much I love this series. The best way to describe Fuga is it's a linear strategy RPG with sim elements and plot involving children saving the world from an apocalyptic force. The story is kind of basic as it's nothing new, but it makes up for it in its main characters as the game fleshes them out, including the main antagonist. Presentation is the same as the first game, which is good because Fuga 2 already had a nice art style and a great melodic soundtrack. What makes this game so high up though is the gameplay, and man I can't get enough. Compared to the first game, 2 takes many gameplay elements from 1, such as the rock paper scissors combat and sim aspects used to upgrade your characters. But instead they add new features that present more of a challenge, like currency and desperate situations, and honestly they're really good. It also helps with the gameplay feeling a bit more refreshing than other games. Again, sure the plot was basic and it felt the same as the first, but Fuga 2 was surprisingly that good for me, which is why it's so high. Please check it out people, because this series is so overlooked. My number 4 goes to Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. If you follow me on social media, you know this game was going to be on the list, and for good reason. This game was that good. If you can't get a new game for a franchise, then make your own, and that's what Team Reptile did. Acting as a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio, Bomb Rush took what people liked about Jet Set and put their own spin on it. The game straight up has the soundtrack and art direction we've grown to love, and it's just so freaking beautiful to experience. Going through a futuristic cel-shaded city while electronic and techno music is playing in the background has never felt so good. Speaking of feeling good, what more is there to feeling good than the gameplay consisting of going around doing tricks while spraying graffiti? It honestly doesn't get old and it doesn't feel wonky. Also, can I just add that the story is surprisingly good as it's easy to get into and has a whole bunch of twists. The game, however, isn't perfect as the combat was lacking and all the characters were the same, which is why it's not at number 1. Even so, this was a must-play for last year, and I'm sad that they didn't even get nominated for anything at the Game Awards. Coming in at number 3 is the Resident Evil 4 remake. To tell you the truth, I haven't beaten it yet because I've been a busy man, but I put a ton of time into it and beat the original, so I'm confident enough putting it this high. I have to say that it's very surprising seeing the remake be as equally good to the original. The story and characters are pretty much the same, but everything else has changed, with some being great improvements. One of the improvements was the presentation, and hot damn the sinister locales in this game look good, especially well the griminess and detail. When it comes to how it plays though, I found the gameplay was more of a challenge with stuff like weapon durability and crafting, and I liked how it favored exploring the village much more with side stuff to do. Also, can I say that both the boss battles and new enemies are fun with how I constantly had to be on my toes? Now I could go on and on with the game, but just know that was well deserving of the scores, and I know for a fact that once I finish it, it will have been my 2023 Game of the Year. Until then, it's very high as my third favorite. At the runner-up spot at number 2, we have Sea of Stars, a game I was unsure of trying because I haven't played The Messenger. I decided to bite after seeing it on Game Pass, and holy fuck what a good game. As a fan of indie JRPGs, there's so much good that this game does. First off, its 16-bit art style is so beautiful to look at with the detail to areas you visit. It also helps with a great soundtrack from the Chrono Trigger composer as he creates nice chiptune music. What made the game excel though was the gameplay. First off, world exploration was pretty good with traversing areas, finding secrets, and getting new power-ups to explore. The biggest positive though was the combat, as it's similar to Super Mario RPG and is supported with systems similar to Persona Showtime's when unleashing huge attacks. This combat is just fun and works well to where it didn't feel tedious. To be honest though, while I like the battles, enemy encounters are few, leveling up barely happens, and most enemies feel like damage sponges, which are some of the game's flaws. On top of this, while the characters were good, the story was a bit dull and convoluted at times. Despite these flaws, Sea of Stars was amazing, and it was well deserving of the awards it got for Best Indie Game. Please check it out wherever you can find it. And finally, coming in at number 1 as my favorite game of 2023, it's Street Fighter 6. At first, I had no interest in this game because 5 was abysmal and the leaked roster felt weak. But I found more info on it, so I got it because of it, and I gotta say what a huge surprise this game was. Despite being a fighting game fan, I'm not too knowledgeable about mechanics, but the various additions are really good changes from past titles, such as how parries and counters work. What makes this game superb though is its presentation and content. 6 just has this beautiful art style, making it feel like the characters are in street fights, be it the menus or loading screens. It also helps with the music setting the atmosphere. Content on the other hand is amazing, as along with the usual arcade, training, and online modes, there's this new single player content called World Tour, and it can honestly be its own separate game. World Tour is this nice open world mode where you can create your own character, explore condensed but various areas, complete quests, and fight whoever you want on the streets while also leveling up to make your character stronger. It's fun and surprisingly addicting, just making your character stronger while meeting various Street Fighter characters so much to where I put over 80 plus hours into it. I know fighting games aren't for everyone, and this game won't be on the list of 2023's all-time best for some people, but it's a very good game, and even though Capcom is most likely going to make a Super Ultra edition on it later, the original version is so good to the point where the purchase is well worth it. So those were my favorite games of 2023. Let me know what some of your favorites were, as I like seeing others' opinions. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching. Take it easy. And for now, see you until my next Best of the Year video. because I don't know if I'll still be making content actively on here.